Today, we're going to look at the top 10 counties that gave Kamala Harris her highest level of support. This is going to include independent cities, parishes, and districts. But no matter how you slice it, this is going to be the bluest of the blue. So let's go quickly. We're going to start at number 10. This is going to be New Orleans, or the Consolidated City Parish of Orleans. So I think most people are pretty familiar with this major city. You can see it's highlighted on the map right here. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over the demographics, but we can still go down here and glance at it. Always take a look at race and ethnicity, also the education and the household income. But we're going to focus just on the broad population. We're looking at 362,000, and the population here has most recently declined a little bit, but it did go up after 2020, but of course it dropped off after Hurricane Katrina here in 2010. Now let's go down here and see what happened in the election results. We've got to go way down here, and we've got Kamala Harris winning it. It was her 10th best location at 82.16%. Donald Trump got 15.16. Not much change here since 2020, but Trump did go up about 0.16 while Harris dropped off about 1%. The last time they voted red was way back in 1972. That was going to be for Richard Nixon on his landslide. But this is extremely blue territory. Less than 1 in 5 voters here are going to vote Republican. You could also take a look at the raw vote totals if you'd like. You could see Harris dropped off about 17,000 compared to Biden. Trump also went down about 2,500 himself. But in terms of percentage, this was the 10th best for Harris. Let's go to number 9. This is going to be in Mississippi. This is Jefferson County. And this one is easy to see highlighted in red here on the map. Now let's go down here and glance at the population. Here there's not that many people. We're looking at under 7,000. In the last 3 decades, it's been on the decline. But just how blue is this county? Let's go down here. Harris won it just a little bit more than New Orleans. She's at 82.66. Trump, 16.4. And it's blue going all the way back to 1968. Now again, I'm not going to focus on the raw vote totals, but if you do, Harris went down 600 votes compared to Biden. Meanwhile, Trump actually went up 10 votes himself. But in terms of percentage, Harris did sink down about 2.5 points compared to Biden. That's overwhelming, but it's still the worst since 2004. Now we're going to go to number 8. This is going to be in Virginia. This is Charlottesville, and it's an independent city. It's not its own county. If you want to know where the city is, it's going to be on the dot here on the map. Let's take a look at the population. It's at 45,672. It's going down a little bit over the past few years, but overall not a dramatic change in recent decades. So let's go down here and take a look at the election. We've got this one blue going all the way back through 1976. And Harris, of course, won it overwhelmingly. She's at 82.9. Trump, 14.6. Again, Trump doing a little bit better here than 2020, also a little bit better than 2016. Here, Harris is doing better than Hillary in 16, but worse than Biden in 20. It's kind of a familiar pattern, but this county has gotten increasingly blue over the decades. Harris and Biden are the only ones to crack 80% during those recent decades in this independent city. For number 7, we're going to go back to Mississippi. This time we've got Claiborne County, and this is right above Jefferson County, number 9. And again, it's going to be highlighted right here. So 2 adjacent counties, extremely blue. Let's go down here and take a look at the population. First, the overall population here is 8,600. It's been dropping off ever since 2010. Its peak population was actually way back in 1900, where they were at 20,787. Now, in terms of the election results, this one is blue again back through 1968. Harris is at 83.3, Trump 15.76. Again, both sides did lose raw votes, but the last time a Democrat was under this percentage was back in 2004. So again, not a ton of enthusiasm for Harris in these extremely blue spots. Let's go to number 6. This is going to be in Georgia, and this is Clayton County. This is just outside of Atlanta. It's not a huge county, but you can see it right here on the map. Let's go down here and take a look at the population. Given its proximity to the major city, there's a lot of people here. It's just under 300,000. Now, the population here in recent decades is actually going up. It hasn't declined at all since 1930, where they were just at 10,000. So there's been a population explosion here. Maybe it's slowed down or leveled off, but it's yet to see a drop. Now, what about in the election? Well, this one is blue through 1992, and it's gotten extremely blue ever since then. Harris won it with 83.62. Trump under 15%. But again, Harris doing worse than Biden, just barely better than Hillary, while Trump also did the best of his 3 runs in 24. Let's go to number 5. we've got a new state. It's South Dakota, and this is Oglala Lakota County. Now, some of you might recall that this county changed its name about 10 years ago. It used to be called Shannon County, and it also lies entirely within the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. So there's going to be a large Native American population here. Let's go down here and see where it's at. We've got 13,360, and it's been pretty steady over the past 20 to 30 years. Now, how about in the election? Well, due to that reservation, you would expect this one to be blue, and it is. Harris at 83.83, Trump at 13.26, and the county is blue going all the way back to 1956. However, Harris got the lowest percentage for a Democrat since 1992. It's not population heavy, and it's still very dark blue, so it's probably not that huge of a deal, but it's fair to point out that it's just not quite as blue as it's been in several decades. For number 4, we're going to go to Maryland, and we've got the independent city of Baltimore. This is again going to be a city that most people are at least a little bit familiar with. But if you need to see its location on the map, it's going to be right here. It's not too far away from the DC area. Now let's take a look at the population. Now this is a city that a lot of people might consider to be in decline over the recent decades. And in terms of population, that does kind of pan out. They're at 568,000, but it's going down every decade since 1950. They were at their peak of just under 950,000. So they've lost a lot of people over the past 60 to 70 years. So you're expecting this one to be very blue, and it is. We look here on the right, it's voted Democrat going back to 1960. It's actually supported that party with at least 60% every year since. So nothing remotely competitive here. And last time Harris got 84.55, but that's lower than Biden, that's lower than Hillary, and it's also lower than both Obama runs. 2004 was the last year a Republican did better and a Democrat did worse than 2024. So it's obviously incredibly blue as we would expect, but it's just slightly redder than it's been in the previous couple of decades. Let's go to number 3. We're going to go back to Virginia. We've got another independent city. This time it's Parkersburg. Now I do think these independent cities make it a little bit easier to be dark blue than if they had to factor in an entire county. But with that said, you can see it on the map here, and it's just a little bit south of the state capital of Richmond. Now we're going to go down here and take a look at the population. It's at 33,458. That's in 2020, and it's up just a little bit from 2010. But in the 3 decades prior, it's gone down. It peaked at 41,000 in 1980. Now in the election, we've got it blue going back through 1976. Harris this time at 85.5%. Trump at about 13. And it's kind of a familiar pattern here. The last time it was redder than this and not as blue was back in 2004. But ever since then, it's still been Democrats cracking 81% in this independent city. Let's move on to number 2. This is going to be again in Maryland. This is right outside of DC. This is Prince George's County. And if you want to know where it is, it's highlighted right here on this map. Now let's take a look at the population. There's a ton of people here. It's at 947,000. It started to drop off a little bit since 2020. But before that, the DC suburbs have exploded. Back in 1940, they were under 100,000 people here. I'm sure there's a lot more stats you could pull out for this county, but we're going to be focused on the election results. So let's go up here. And this one's blue through 1976. Harris got 85.9%. That's her second best. Trump at just 11.1. But again, for what it's worth, the last Republican to do better than Trump here is going to be George W. Bush in 2004. So this is technically the absolute bluest county in the country. But if we're going to go to the absolute bluest spot in the country, it's going to be nearby Washington, D.C. Probably not much of a surprise here, but let's go down here again and glance at the population. It's up now over 700,000, but its peak was 763,000 in 1960. So some fluctuation in the population here over the past 50 or 60 years. But everybody knows this is pretty much the bluest place in the country. They have their own 3 electoral votes, and this is where Harris got her highest percentage. If we go down here and glance at the table, ever since they've got those electoral votes, it's been blue going back through 1964. The lowest percent a Democrat ever got was 1980. That was just under 75%. Now what did Harris do? Well, she cracked 90% here, 90.28. That's again worse than Biden. It's worse than Hillary. It's worse than Obama in 12. It's worse than Obama in 08. But it is better than John Kerry in 2004. Now Trump, on the other hand, here was at 6.47. There's not much there, but it's technically the best of his 3 runs. The last Republican to do more than that was Mitt Romney in 2012. Third party vote here was about 3.26%. So this is not some hidden secret location. This is the nation's capital, and it also happens to be the place that Kamala Harris got her highest level of support in the 2024 election. So if we go back to the county map, it might be hard to see some of these, but they're all going to be highlighted right here. Of course, on the thumbnail for the video, you can see the arrows that are going to point at each one of these places. So these aren't exactly spread out. Several of them are going to be in Virginia or just outside of DC. Then we've got a couple in Mississippi, one in Georgia, Louisiana, and then one in South Dakota. So that's it. That's where Harris did her absolute best. Some of those places like Baltimore and DC have a ton of people and they matter. But other places like Claiborne County don't have many people at all and they're not going to have as much impact. And even though they're the bluest places out there, Harris repeatedly did worse than Biden and usually Hillary as well. Again, you can factor in the demographics including race, household income, and education, and feel free to draw whatever conclusions you'd like. But if you were looking for the places that you're going to be hard-pressed to find any Republicans, these are the top 10. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of these 10 places that voted huge for Harris? Which ones were obvious? Which ones were surprises? Why do you think they voted the way they did? And which way do you think the trends are going to be in the future? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.